I keep thinking about what I saw earlier today. Yes, on MSNBC, but certainly not during Morning Joe. But what I saw today on MSNBC, that this filthy son of a bitch, Homan, the former head of the immigration, the ICE, the enforcement division of ICE, who is now going to take over the whole thing. And he continues to insist that once he gets power in his grubby Nazi little hands, this son of a bitch is going to begin cleaving families again. Just like the white people did to black Africans who were brought to this country to become enslaved people. Mama didn't want her baby to go to Mississippi while Mama went to Kentucky. Too fucking bad. Separate them. Daddy didn't want to go to some rat-ass plantation in near Savannah, Georgia, because one of his sons was going to a rice plantation in Charleston, South Carolina. Fuck them. Separate them. This is what Homan is doing now, what he plans on doing as soon as this Nazi racist pig bastard gets control. And that idea, of course, comes from the Nazi Jew, Stephen Miller, who's been whispering his poison into Trump's ear for 4, 5, 6 years now. Separating families. Most of us white folk, I can't speak for black folk, but by God, I can speak for white people because I are one. And I think it's safe to say that most of us, when we were in, I guess it was high school, when we first started to learn about what the slave market was like here in the United States, families that were brought to this country in chains, the ones who survived the Middle Passage, brought to this country in chains, put up for sale. And if mama went north and daddy went south and the babies went west, that's just too fucking bad. We white people should not focus too much on this because the atrocity that was committed, not by you or me, I understand that. We are not guilty. The only thing we could be guilty of is not acknowledging fully what happened and providing compensation to the people, the descendants of the people who were so goddamn just criminally misused. Reparations is the word. Oh, if you want to see white people start screaming and foaming at the mouth, just mention the word reparations where it concerns to paying the descendants of enslaved people in this country for what they were denied all the way down here in the 10th generation after. Never a chance to amass a family fortune or family wealth. Doesn't have to be a fortune, just wealth. Couldn't own a house. Couldn't own real estate. Couldn't go into business. All right, I'm getting too far afield. I understand. I understand. But all this was triggered when I saw on television today this fucking Homan is being quoted as saying that family detention, that's what they call it. Family detention is, quote, on the table, end quote. On the table. This rat son of a bitch white devil can use cliches like that. It's on the table. Oh, my God. On the table, the fact that I'm going to eviscerate families again to satisfy my Lord and Master Christ, God, Jesus, goddamn Christ, Donald Trump. Because this is the Christian way, you know. You know, I've said it before. Sometimes I just wish that there was enough reality to the Christian religion so that when these dirty, filthy pigs died, they would actually stand at the entryway to hell and have just a moment to think, oh, shit, but I'm a Christian. I went to church. And, you know, some little demons would gather around and say, shut the fuck up, and push them down into the pit. Oh, my goodness. So you see, my slim chance of believing in religion has to do with the punishment of it all for these white devils who have done this. And not just white devils. There were black slavers in Africa. I understand that, who sold their brothers and sisters, so to speak, to the white devils who were there to take them into enslavement in the Western Hemisphere. I get that. But that is for the Africans to deal with. The Americans should be able to deal with what we did to these people once they got here. All right, enough. Just whenever I see that border czar's name, Homan, I start to lose it. What I wanted to mention is that the number of people experiencing homeless this past year has topped 700,000. And these numbers are not exact or precise. These are estimates. 770,000. That's an increase of more than 18% over 2023. As a matter of fact, according to, I found this in the New York Times, homelessness is now at the highest level on record ever in this country. And it's being driven by forces that included a surge in migrants seeking asylum, political or environmental or religious asylum, a national housing crisis, and the end of the pandemic era measures that were used, that money that was given to families to try to protect people who were in dire straits. And this was reported, these numbers were reported by the feds today, Friday. The number of people experiencing homelessness over the last year demonstrates the largest annual increase since the count began to be kept in 2007. And nearly every category of homeless people, or the correct term now, I guess, is unhoused. I don't like these politically correct terms. I really don't. So I'm going to stick with homeless, okay? Sorry. Nearly every category of homeless people grew, according to this report, with the rise especially steep among children. Yep, there it is again. And people who are part of a family. Not the so-called homeless bum, get a job. No. Children, like the children in Gaza, like the children in Ukraine, like the children in Lebanon, like the children every fucking place on earth where there is slaughter and death and destruction because of religious or political horseshit. Children in this country, right at this moment, we do not have a war on the soil of the United States. I am not so convinced that it's not going to happen soon, but right now we don't. So why do we have homeless children? And if the government is saying that the surge in numbers is partly due to immigrants, people seeking asylum, well, who's going to argue with the facts if they are, in fact, facts? I think about the people I see, and I see people all the time who are homeless, standing on street corners, holding up the signs, asking the traffic that stops coming off the expressway, sitting at the bottom of the exit ramp, waiting for the light to change, people with a bag or a bucket or just their hand, just asking for help. And yes, I always carry a bunch of $1 bills in the car so I can hand out 3 or 4 every time I'm approached, which doesn't make me special. It's just what the fuck I feel like the least I can do. And it's very little. I mean, what the hell does $3 or $4 do? Buy you a Starbucks? But my hope is that enough people who drive down the same expressway exit ramp as I do will hand something to people who are asking for help. But when I see these people, the point I was trying to make, when I see these people, very seldom, if ever, especially not in the kind of weather we're having now, do I see a couple or a single adult with a child or children. Sometimes I do see that. Perhaps you have too. Usually it's in the edges of a parking lot near a supermarket or a mall. Occasionally you will see a couple and maybe 2 or 3 little kids and a stroller. And the look on the adults' faces to me is one of extreme anguish and depression and anxiety. Well, anyway, the report that has these horrible figures in it was released by Department of Housing and Urban Development. And it shows that homelessness had risen by a third, 30% in the past 2 years. And this was after years of some modest fluctuations up and down. I can remember maybe last year reading something that said, I believe, homelessness in this country was at one of the lowest periods it had been at in a long time. But apparently those were just fluctuations in the numbers, according to this latest report. Anyway, Housing and Urban Development, the agency blamed factors such as, quote, our worsening national affordable housing crisis, end quote, inflation, and the end of certain aid programs from the pandemic. Now, as far as what is quoted as the worsening national affordable housing crisis, oh my God. One of the reasons for that, I'm sure you know this by now, the hedge fund operators, the billionaires, and we have a sickening number of them in this country. The billionaires buy up property through their agents. They buy, every time a fucking house goes on the market, it's glommed up by these hedge fund operators, these billionaires. They buy the houses, buy them, get them off the market, throw in some cheap fucking rehab, and then put them back out on the market. Don't sell them. Oh, no. Rent them for $2,500, $3,500, $4,500 a month. Little 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalows. Fucking A. That's how you make money in this capitalist society. So when they talk about the national affordable housing crisis, I just want to scream. It's a manufactured crisis. There is no reason for this, except for the fact that it keeps pumping money into the pockets of these billionaire son of a bitches who care not a whit about their fellow human beings. But, I would just remind them, of course, they don't listen to this podcast, but I would remind them that in the end, and the end does come, you rich motherfuckers, you billionaires, let me tell you something. You are going to die, and the remains of your body are going to rot just like the most forgotten homeless man or woman on the street. The Great Leveler is heading your way, dude. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. The Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.